I know what you're thinking. Oh no, another NH34 powered GMT. And yes, we have another NH34 powered GMT. I feel that at this stage, all microbrands should have one in their arsenal. It's always interesting when I get to try out new watches, especially watches that I can afford. And speaking of affording, I really appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel so I can afford to get more watches in. Now, back on the watch. By an affordable brand, I mean a brand that offers a good movement, sleek lume, a design that is uniquely associated with the brand, and all of this under $400, actually, or less. Now, the brand that we're going to have a look at today is called Revelot, and they are a fairly new brand founded in 2017, but gaining more popularity in the last couple of years with the releases of a couple of models. One of the more popular is the Hex Mariner. Today I have in for review the Admiral GMT, and this instantly made me question why I didn't reach out to them sooner for a watch. This thing is just insane. It's bold, it's toolish, it's functional, and it embraces an angular design that is associated with the brand. This retails for $365. This is for a limited amount of time, so be sure to use it while it lasts. Now, with those things out of the way, let's have a proper look at this beast. I'm calling this a beast because this has proper presence. So in terms of dimensions, you're looking at a 41.5 millimeter case diameter, a thickness of 13.5 with a flat sapphire crystal, a lug width of 22 millimeters, lug to lug of 49, and a weight of 175 grams. That's a huge weight. Sized up for, of course, for my magical wrist. In terms of wearability, this wears imposing, if you want to call it that. This would be the first word that comes into my mind. There is a lot going on visually. Again, the angular case, the design of the bracelet, and it does draw attention. Everything about this watch draws attention. The case diameter is not what makes it look so imposing. Again, it's the overall design. It reminds me a bit of the Seiko Samurai, but a bit more flamboyant, if you want to call it that. If you're into the style and have a 6+ inch wrist, then this is for you. The 49 millimeter lug to lug distance sort of makes it okay for my 6.3 inch wrist, but definitely looks on the larger side of it. It is definitely tall, but it looks perfectly proportioned overall with the 22 millimeter lugs. And again, let's not forget, this is a GMT and it has 200 meter water resistance, so you would have some thickness or some height, if you want to call it that. And speaking of thickness, have a look at this beautiful, beautiful case. It is a proper industrial tool look to it with a heavy duty feel. It's obviously 316L stainless steel, as you already have guessed from the weight, with a overall brushed finish. The crown is at the 330 and it's done this way to accommodate the position of the date on the dial. So we have a date at the 6 o'clock. We have no crown guards, with the crown nicely being incorporated in the case, and it looks really, really tidy as you're screwing it in. The bezel and the crown have this same Seiko Samurai greepy finish to it, and I would call this sort of like a sandpaper gritty finish, whatever that is. I'm really nailing the textures in this one, I have to say. On a more serious note, the bezel is just perfect. The right amount of resistance in case you want to play with it. Do you play with it? And equally as important, it aligns. Outside of this, if you ask me, absolutely nothing matters, because again, and I say this in every single video, no one will take this diving and no one will actually complain about the movement of the bezel and the fact that the resistance is just not right. So whoever says that, don't believe them. Let's move on to the dial. Covering this, we have a flat sapphire crystal with proper blue AR coating. I don't know how many layers it has, but you'll be able to see that on the website. The dial is super cool and has one of the most interesting patterns to it, if you ask me. First of all, it looks like a jet engine propeller sort of texture, and it's complemented what I would call saw-like teeth of different sizes as indices. The funny thing is that this just works. The combination, the pattern on the dial, and the way the light plays with it just works. It's like this watch was made for a person that works with jet engines. There you go. And isn't a pilot. I should mention that the seconds hand reaches all the way out to the readout, where we have the GMT markers in red. That GMT hand also reaches all the way out of the outer edge, but it does tend to get a bit lost under the hour or the minute hand because it's kind of small. So the hour and the minute hands are quite big, and as you're looking at the dial, occasionally you might spend an extra second or two to find it. And speaking of not seeing things, the markers on the readout are not that easy to spot, depending on the color of the dial that you opt for and obviously the light conditions. Again, AR coating also plays a role in this, and pair this with the low light conditions depending where you might find yourself. Tracking a second time zone might not be easy because they're very difficult to see. Now, with that out of the way, let's move on to the most important scientific test. And yes, you know it is indeed a P-loom time. A very, very weird transition that I just made there. This, of course, is the most accurate and scientific test on the internet. So for those that are new here, we're going to be using the following system. We will be judging the loom based on 3 categories: brightness, longevity, and application/cool factor with a K. And we'll be giving it marks out of 10. So let's get into it. First up, we have the brightness. So we have loom on the hands, the outer edge, shark teeth markers, and the insert. And there is quite a lot of loom on all of these. Everything glows super bright, with the bezel insert having a nice separation to it, if I want to call it that. I'm not sure how they did this, but you can definitely see the markers on the insert. The cool thing about this is that everything glows with the same brightness, no matter the surface. So whatever they did to this, it all works. So for all of the above on this one, we will give it a score of 8 out of 10 on the brightness. Moving on to the longevity. This was a bit of a surprise for me because although we have a lot of loom and it's very bright on first exposure, this doesn't last as long as you think compared to the amount of loom that's in there. So the first blast charges it, and don't get me wrong, it is still much better than any average micro brand out there, but the internal minute marker, which is filled with loom, fades faster than the hands and even the insert in this case. Everything else is pretty crisp and you can still see everything halfway through the night. So for that, the Admiral gets a 6.5 on the longevity test. Moving on to the application/cool factor with a K. This is a bit of a mixed bag for me for a few reasons. So first of all, we have 2 colors. We have the green tint from the C3 and this orange glow on the bezel. Everything is properly applied and it just works with the overall design. And I even love these markers on the dial and on the outer edge. But I still cannot get past the fact that this fades way quicker than the rest, which means that there are some inconsistencies in the application, of course. Regardless of these inconsistencies, it does score points on originality and design, and because of that, I will give it a 7 on application and cool factor with a K. So overall, the Admiral GMT gets a P-loom score of 7.16, which is not actually bad at all because this is a great rounded performance. Let's move on and talk about the movement. So inside we have the NH34, as usual, specs on the screen. I mean, this is very familiar to everyone at this stage. The movement that brought the words affordable and GMT in the same sentence, and it opened the combination to the market. The magic number that you're looking for here is a bit high, minus 20 seconds per day, but it's still within tolerances. This is nothing concerning as the movement was not supposed to break any chronometer certified records. So to be honest, I see no problem here. You're not going to sit around and you're not going to figure out that, 20 seconds per day will make a huge difference in the way you track time. Okay, so again, I see no problem here. And let's move on to the next topic, which is the bracelet. So this is a 5-link engineer style, and I think that's what it's called. All individual links with a pin and collar system. tapers from 22 at the lugs to 20 at the clasp. We have a milled upper and lower clasp with on-the-fly adjustment and also quick release spring bars. So they literally threw everything, including the kitchen sink at this watch for that kind of money. It's pretty comfortable and the design blends in overall with the theme of the watch and the overall aesthetic. The pitting color system is a bit annoying when sizing if you ask me, but again, this is something that everyone can do with a basic watch tool kit. And it's not the end of the world. Seiko uses it, I think micro brands use it, and it does keep the cost down. Maybe not that much, but I didn't mind it and I didn't have any problems sizing it. Overall is a really cool bracelet and it does fit with the overall design of the watch. And if you ask me, I think this should stay on this bracelet unless you want to change it, nothing for leather, but maybe a FKM rubber strap, since this is a diver. The extension offers you that extra bit of length when your wrist expands throughout the day, but that is always welcome on the fly. So to sum it up, guys, I do think that this is definitely worth buying, as it is a beast of a watch for not a lot of money. And again, it is a breath of fresh air and it's not something that you typically find elsewhere. Like Zelos owns their own design, I like the fact that Revelot owns their own design, and this is something that at this stage is associated with the brand. So with that out of the way, guys, thank you very, very much for watching. That was my review of the Admiral GMT. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about the watch and the brand. Thank you very, very much for watching. Click a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't so, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!